I think we can focus on our players. We got a proposal from the league, which was honestly a slap in the face.
We are not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
What if I told you that WNBA players just rejected a deal that would have quadrupled their salaries, and that they're now threatening to set out an entire season unless they get paid like NBA superstars from a league that loses $50 million every single year? Stick around, because what I'm about to show you about this collective bargaining disaster will blow your mind. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why these players might have just made the biggest mistake in sports history. So before we get to the content, we're about to start running our annual NBA 2K26 giveaway on this channel. We're going to be giving away copies of NBA 2K26 to a subscriber that has their notifications on this channel. And also we're going to be running separate giveaways for those that follow us on Instagram with our notifications on. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. NFL season's around the corner, and Dak Prescott just needs one passing yard in order for his square to hit. Guys, you can sign up with my promo code microphone to get a free $50 in lineups when you play $5 or more on PrizePicks. Once you get that, use $25 on this lineup here to make $131. I've already been making picks so I can snipe the best lines early on. And in this case, I'm pairing Dak Prescott to get one passing yard, which is a free square, with Kyren Williams getting a touchdown at any point and Justin Jefferson scoring a touchdown versus the Chicago Bears. On top of that, if you want more plays, I've created an incredible Discord community of experts in the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, PrizePicks, for today's sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I'm currently coming to you guys from Taormina. I will be home in about 12 days, and at which I promise you we'll have proper lighting again. But if you guys want to see what I'm up to, you can check out my travels on Instagram. Now, the WNBA's current collective bargaining agreement expires on October 31st, 2025, and what the players are demanding isn't just unrealistic, it's financially impossible. But we'll get to that in a minute, because first, I need to tell you about the deal that they just walked away from. Here's where this gets absolutely wild. According to ESPN's reporting, the WNBA just offered to quadruple maximum player salaries. We're talking about raising the max from $249,244 to over $1 million. Let me repeat that. They offered to make players millionaires just for 3.5 months of work, and the players said no. Why? Because according to WNBA PA President Nneka Ogwumike, even though the money increased dramatically, relative to the percentage of everything is virtually staying the same, which means that the players want what the NBA has, which is 50% revenue sharing. Right now, they get about 9.3% of league revenue. They want to jump from less than 10% to 50%. And here's where the math gets absolutely brutal. But before I show you why this demand is completely insane, you need to understand something about the WNBA that the average person just doesn't really pay attention to, and it involves a number that makes this whole situation even more ridiculous.
In the NBA, they have percentages of revenue shared for the players. We are not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Got it. So that's a huge misconception.
I don't know how many times I have to say this in a video. I mean, I really need to put it in the beginning of a video, just in case if people click off of the content, at least the main takeaway would be this. The WNBA is not profitable. They lose about $40 to $50 million every single year. Not sometimes, not in down years, every single year. Since 1997, the league has lost over $280 million and has never, not once, turned a profit. 28 years of existence and they've never made money. And the craziest part is, whenever a NBA legend tried to suggest ways to make the product more entertaining, WNBA players would really not take it so well.
You think if we just lower the rim so y'all could dunk like we dunk, that'll give y'all more oomph than you already have?
No.
Do you think that the game will get more watch if the rims were a little bit shorter?
This is probably one of the most offensive questions you can ask a WNBA player.
Now let's do the math that apparently nobody in the WNBPA did. The league's 2024 revenue was about $200 million. If you give players 50% of that, you're talking about $100 million just in salaries. That's before you pay for arenas, staff, travel, marketing, or literally anything else. Remember, they're already losing $50 million a year. Adding another $80 million in player costs would mean that they're now losing $130 million annually. What business can survive that? And speaking of not understanding business, if you didn't hear what the players did to protest, it'll make you want to bang your head against the wall because it's so tone deaf that it actually hurt their own cause, and the reaction to this was hilarious. So about a month ago was the WNBA All-Star Game. This was supposed to be their big moment. All 22 players wore "Pay us what you owe us" shirts during warm-ups. It went viral on social media. Fans were even chanting "Pay them." It sounded like a perfect protest until they actually played the game. The final score was 117 to 109. These are supposed to be the best players in the league, and they gave such little effort on defense that they scored over 225 points combined. It looked like a pickup game at the local rec center, and before you say, "But Mike, that's what the NBA All-Star Game is," believe me, if you looked at the highlights or the lowlights of this game, you'd understand what I'm talking about here. Sure, in the NBA All-Star Game, which I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched in quite some time because I personally find it very boring because players aren't really giving that much effort. You don't really see a lot of effort from the NBA players, but at least you're seeing them like trying to dunk the ball, or you'll see some isolation plays, you'll see some very deep three-point attempts, and yeah, eventually it could get a little boring. But in this particular game, you weren't even watching good basketball from the WNBA. And here's the kicker: Kelsey Plum basically admitted that not everyone wanted to participate in the protest.
As players, we didn't know that was going to happen. I think it was kind of like a genuine surprise, but the t-shirt was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. You know, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just, we had a very...
that really needed to be mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay?
She basically threw shade at Caitlin Clark's team for not being fully on board. So much for unity there. And the internet's reaction was brutal. I mean, there was one comment that said the WNBA loses $50 million every year and has never generated a profit. You deserve $0. Harsh? Maybe, but this is mathematically accurate. Now, the counterpoint to this is if you work for a company that is currently going under, you still typically get paid for working for that company. And that brings us to the elephant in the room, the one person who could have saved this league and how they completely fumbled that opportunity. Caitlin Clark generated 26.5% of all of the WNBA's economic activity in 2024. Let me put that into perspective. One rookie generated over a quarter of the entire league's economic impact. Indiana Fever attendance jumped 318.9% when Caitlin Clark played. Her games averaged 1.18 million viewers compared to the 394,000 for games without her. She appeared in 19 of the 23 games that exceeded 1 million viewers. Her jersey became the second best-selling basketball jersey in America, behind only Steph Curry. Some analysts think that she could generate nearly $1 billion in economic impact for 2025. So naturally, the WNBA and its players did everything they could to mess this up. They kept her off of the Olympic team, costing an estimated $60 million in sponsor value. Kennedy Carter body slammed her in what was initially called a common foul, with Angel Reese cheering her on from the bench. Instead of marketing around their obvious superstar, the only player in WNBA history that people actually seem to care about, they just kept spreading the attention to other players because they were jealous of her. A former Nike marketing director, Jordan Rogers, said that the league suffered from corporate paralysis and created a false choice mentality, treating Clark's success as zero-sum. Imagine if the NBA had left Michael Jordan off of the dream team because other players might get jealous. That's essentially what happened here. Now, to be fair, WNBA players do have some leverage. The new unrivaled 3x3 league pays an average of $222,000 for an 8-week season. Overseas, top players can make $500,000 to $1.5 million in Russia and China. So when Angel Reese says, if y'all don't give us what we want, we're sitting out, she's not completely completely powerless. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. Those overseas leagues that pay more, they're subsidized by wealthy owners as hobbies or government sports programs. They don't face American requirements for profitability or long-term viability. So when players threaten to sit out for unrivaled $222,000 while rejecting the WNBA's offer that's approaching $1 million, it shows that this isn't really about money, it's about control and percentages. Remember that math from earlier? The players want a bigger percentage of a pie that simply just doesn't exist. So let's make some comparisons to other leagues that are on the up and up, but they're not necessarily so popular, kind of like the WNBA. Let's talk about Major League Soccer for a minute, because it's the perfect comparison. Soccer is the world's most popular sport, and I gotta be careful because I'm in Italy right now, so over here it's called football, but we all know what real football is. It's what I cover on microphone. But men's soccer has a massive global following, and guess what? The MLS lost $250 million in its first 5 years and took over a decade to achieve profitability. Even today, MLS players get about 30% of the revenue, still well below the 50% that WNBA players want. The NWSL, which is women's soccer, just got a groundbreaking CBA that raised their salary cap to $3.3 million per team by 2025. That's barely double the WNBA's current $1.5 million cap, despite soccer having broader global appeal. The XFL and AAF, which were male football leagues with built-in fan bases, lost $70 million and $88 million respectively in single seasons while paying players modest salaries, and they folded because player costs killed them. But here's what really shows how disconnected WNBA players are from reality. Even economists say that they should be making exactly what they're being offered. Harvard economist Claudia Golden and others suggest that WNBA players should earn roughly 1/4 to 1/3 of an average NBA salary based off of revenue generation alone. Guess what? That's almost exactly what the league just offered them. And here's where this gets really interesting. Believe it or not, the WNBA is in the midst of an expansion boom. Golden State paid a $50 million expansion fee in 2025. Toronto and Portland will pay $250 million each. 3 more teams are planned by 2030. Investors aren't paying these prices for charity. They see future value. But here's the thing, that value depends on the league actually becoming profitable. Think about this. You're asking new owners to pay $250 million to buy into a business model that guarantees they'll lose money through excessive player costs. What investor would agree to that? The players are essentially holding a gun to their own heads. They want revolutionary change at the exact moment that the league is experiencing evolutionary growth. And if they kill that expansion momentum, they kill their own future earning potential. Let me break down the new media deal that everyone keeps talking about. The WNBA got $2.2 billion over 11 years starting in 2026. That's $200 million annually. That sounds huge, right? Especially for the WNBA. But here's what they won't tell you. That represents just 6.6% of the NBA's $3 billion in annual media revenue, and 60% of WNBA revenue goes to the NBA and outside investors under the current ownership structure. So WNBA players want 50% of their smaller pie, while NBA players accept 49 to 51% of theirs. The math literally doesn't work. Even though skyrocketing franchise valuations everyone points to, the Las Vegas Aces went from a $2 million purchase to a $310 million valuation. But those valuations reflect future potential. They're speculative. It's not current cash flow. It's pretty much the same thing as people were doing 4 years ago when they were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for a picture of an ape, which if you happen to do that, my heart goes out to you. Teams average $20.2 million in revenue, but face higher costs when you include charter flights, marketing, and operations. Now here's what really happened in those CBA negotiations. According to Brianna Stewart, the league ignored everything that they said, and it was a wasted opportunity. But the league characterized the same meeting as constructive and productive. Sadhu Sabali called the league's proposal a slap in the face. A slap in the face for an offer to make her a millionaire. And I think people just don't understand. WNBA players play less than 23% of the games that an NBA player does. And Commissioner Kathy Engelbert kept emphasizing the need for a sustainable economic model and a path to profitability. You know why? Because she actually has to answer to investors and ensure that the league survives long term. The NBA subsidizes the WNBA by $10 to $15 million annually and has absorbed 70% of the league's historical losses. Without that support, the WNBA would have folded years ago. That's why people joke that the WNBA is just a tax write-off for the NBA. So when players demand independence from NBA control while simultaneously needing NBA subsidies, it reveals the fundamental inconsistency in their position. Now let's talk about this threatened work stoppage. No WNBA work stoppage has ever occurred, and there's a reason for that. The league historically couldn't survive one. Nafisa Collier says that players are prepared for the possibility of lockout, but are they really? The charter flight program alone costs $25 million annually. That's over 12% of total revenue just for travel. Player salaries and benefits account for roughly $20 million total across all teams. So the league is spending more on flights than player salaries. And they want to double or triple that cost? A lockout would kill the momentum from the Caitlin Clark season. It would destroy your sponsor relationships and potentially end the expansion plans that represent the player's best path to higher future earnings. Look, I'm not saying WNBA players don't deserve fair compensation. They absolutely do. And the league's offer to quadruple maximum salaries represents real substantial progress. But demanding NBA level revenue percentages from a league that has never turned a profit, rejecting million-dollar offers as slaps in the face, threatening to sit out right when the league is finally gaining momentum, that's not fighting for fair wages, that's being delusional about basic business reality. The WNBA had a transcendent season in 2024. Record attendance, record viewership, record merchandise sales. I mean, guys, we were not making content on the WNBA 2 years ago, and now you guys are watching this. And even with all that success, they still lost money. Adding 40% more in player costs without addressing the underlying economics would accelerate those losses, not create sustainability. History shows that sports leagues need patient capital and gradual growth to achieve sustainability. The NBA took 3 decades to achieve its current economics. The WNBA is 28 years old and just now is experiencing real growth. Players are gambling this moment on demands for immediate revolutionary change. They risk killing the patient to cure the disease. You can't split profits that don't exist. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Are WNBA players being unrealistic, or do they have a point about revenue sharing? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, if you're an NFL fan like me, you know that the season is just getting heated up and Micah Parsons has demanded a trade from the Dallas Cowboys. We're covering where he could end up. He might bring Aaron Donald out of retirement and team up with him on the Rams. It's getting really crazy. I'll leave a link to it in the end screen. I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.